know the procedure. Thank you. Before, of course, we get into why you should retain members, or how to retain members, and why you should collect memberships early, I would like to introduce, of course, our district director, Murad, who is in the audience. Murad, welcome to the meeting. Please say a few words for us, and then we will kick off, Murad. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brahm, our Club Growth Director for 2021-2022. Welcome, everyone here. I appreciate Brahm setting up here, and I look forward to working through this particular first-time event. Back to you, Brahm.
Thank you, Murad. Of course, we have many distinguished guests today present with us, and so we won't have the time to recognize all of them, but welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you especially for the support that we've had. Now, our past international president, Mohammed Murad, may not be able to join us. He had a vaccination a couple of days ago, and he's a little bit under the weather. As you know, the second vaccination can do that to you. So that is what's going on. But we have a surprise guest with us. But before we have the surprise guest come up here, I would like to sort of ask our technical director to spotlight with me our past international president, our very own Canadian past international president, if I may mention, from 2015-16, distinguished Toastmaster Jim Kokocki. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Brahm. Thank you, everybody.
And then, of course, my club, and I must get this right, I always mix this up between retention and extension. So this is our club retention chair, I believe. Did I get that right? Yes, I did. Jaya Priya Muthu Kumar. Welcome, Jaya.
Good morning, good evening, all.
Now, you know, Jaya, because you are in District 86, most people would think you are in the same time zone as I am. But tell us what time is it where you are?
It's 4:34 a.m. to be precise.
She is in India, in is it Chennai or Bengaluru?
Yes, Chennai.
Chennai. And as you can see, we have a global reach now that we are in the pandemic, that Toastmasters International changed some of its rules, and we are able to open up our clubs globally. But that is not the subject of today. We just wanted to introduce you and let you know that anything is possible today. With that, of course, let us kick off by first asking, rather than me telling a little bit about Jim Kokocki and introducing him a little bit further. Jim, could you introduce yourself a little bit more so the audience get a bit more gist of who you are?
I'm happy to do so, Brahm, and I'll be brief because I want us to get us to retention and hear who our special guest is, although I think I figured that out. So yes, I was international president 2015-2016, Jim Kokocki. I live here in St. John, New Brunswick in Eastern Canada, and committed Toastmaster since 1987. I'll always be a Toastmaster. Perhaps I'll explain why later today, should the question arise in some fashion. And I'll also mention that from a leadership perspective, I serve as president and board chair of a group called Marsh St. John here in the city. It's a not-for-profit, very small, but we do work with people with intellectual disabilities. So it's really important to me that you practice your communication skills and leadership skills, and you serve the broader world. And this is one way I do so with Marsh. Back to you, Brahm.
Thank you very much, Jim. And Jayapriya, if you can introduce yourself a little bit as well as to exactly your just your background and so on. Jayapriya.
Yes, Brahm. So we had our weekly discussion in the CGD meetings, and we were thinking about how we can enhance and discuss more on the club retention goals. So it isn't we decided to come up with such a program. And to tell about myself, I hold a dual membership in District 86 and District 120, and I'm a Toastmaster since 2013 and have accomplished the DTM title twice, have served as an area director, division director as well. Thanks, Brahm.
Thank you very much. So let us focus a little bit on retention and how to retain members. Now, one of the, of course, the most basic things at the club level, my opinion has always been that the vice president of membership when a member is inactive in my clubs that I've been a member of, and I've been a member of about 9 different clubs over the past 25 years that I have been a member of Toastmasters. And I've, of course, moved around geographically. That's the reason why 9 different clubs as I moved around from club to club. And it has always been that when a member hasn't been around for 3 weeks, then the vice president of membership ought to connect with a member who hasn't been coming and find out the circumstances and enable that member to be coming back to the club so that they can be engaged again. That's the most basic retention at the club level that we all know of. Now I will pass it on to Jim and his, and put him on the spot, of course, and in his vast wisdom of club retention and how to retain members.
Retain members. Well, I like to get out in front of it. Retention obviously means someone's decided to leave the club, and I've been looking. We've recently published on the Toastmasters website. You can get some information. There's a data portal that shows what our retention numbers are like, and they're down this year. No surprise that 26% of people who left recently said it's because of COVID, and a very large number, 40% of them, say they'd like to be back. They're motivated to rejoin when in-person meetings resume. So some bad news there. We've lost some significant quantities, but a lot will come back when we go to hybrid or face-to-face. So when I say I like to get in front of it, Brahm and I talked earlier this week, and I make the point that we are leaders, are sellers of the future. We have to paint a vision, a big vision or a small vision, and let people know what's coming up. So ironically, just today, I serve as Rising Tide, president of Rising Tide Toastmasters here in the city. And I just sent a message tonight to the club to say, look, here's what we're planning for the fall. There'll be at least one hybrid meeting. We're planning some special events, not unlike what we're doing tonight here and on a smaller scale, but we'll showcase a couple of newcomers to Canada who are members of the club, who are entrepreneurs. So that will be the theme: entrepreneurship, immigrant entrepreneurship. And we'll have an event where we have a couple of speeches and table topics to go with the theme. So we need to excite people about what's coming up and give them a view to see how they will continue to be challenged and have an opportunity to develop. So I think for me, a huge part of retention is selling that future vision, letting people know they can participate, influence the direction, while our clubs provide a stable environment for people to develop. But we'll also do some things to throw them off balance from time to time, because that's what communication and leadership's about. You know how to respond when things don't go exactly as planned.
So selling the future to a member that has left perhaps, and seeing the exciting things that are coming on, especially during the COVID times. Now, of course, I must emphasize that to most normal people like me, retention meant if a member was inactive and hadn't left, to call him. Now you're talking about retention where a member has already left even, and to call him back and saying, here's the future, here's what we are doing, here's the exciting things coming up in the club, and why don't you come and join us and join in the excitement and learn something and so on. So that is something new.
Maybe I say continue on that, Brahm. So I will say,
sure.
Every club leader on this call tonight has some members right now who are thinking, will I renew? I'm not sure I want to renew. What's coming up? So folks, do some planning with your executive, plan a couple of small events, a club contest, other sorts of events that will excite your members, and see how they can see how they can participate and develop and grow, and communicate them. And even might want to do that before you ask for money.
Absolutely. Now, of course, before we go on as well, as guests, you are allowed, of course, to put questions, and we will also take questions from the chat. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and our technical person will, from time to time, stop us and read the question for us. So don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat. One of the things, Jim, that I did when I was the president of a club long time ago, and I'd forgotten this very recently, is what I used to do even as a president was when a member was inactive for a few weeks, I would write to them and say, this is what happened in the club this evening. We had this table topics, and this person made such an exciting speech, and this was what the speech was in the table topics. This person came and spoke in the speaking time, and they did a 7-minute speech on this and this subject, and it was like amazing. We had such a great time this evening. Why don't you come and join back? You remember when you were here and you used to come regularly. You used to enjoy this. And so that is one of the things that I used to do as a president. But you mentioned something very interesting. It is an internal role for Vice President of Public Relations. Now,
Absolutely.
I had never heard of that before as well. So if you can shed some light on that.
Sure, and I've been around since 1987, and I've seen VP memberships, presidents, VPs of public relations do that sort of communication. But public relations is both internal and external. And the external is harder because you need to get out to via social media and perhaps newspapers and radio, et cetera, to get a message to a very broad audience. But internal is important as well. So what Brahm suggested, the variation that I personally like is after every meeting, have somebody do a summary. And in one of my clubs, the club secretary does that. Just what you described. Table topics were on this, and here were a couple of funny things that were funny topics. Here were a couple of speeches. Here was someone's icebreaker. So even for folks who missed the meeting, they'll say, "Oh, I wanted to see so-and-so's icebreaker so much, and I missed it. I want to see their next speech." We need to remind them before they start to drift away that there's valuable things happening, and we want them to feel like they missed something important.
Actually, there's a club in our district, and I'm sure there's several other clubs that actually still do that, is send out a weekly call it a newsletter or a blast to all the members. And the club that I know of, because I'm on their mailing list, and I get that weekly email telling me how great that meeting was, what they're doing, and the upcoming meeting, and so on. And that is, if I may give a shout out to Port Credit, congratulations for doing that. That's an excellent job. Jaya, what's your thoughts on retention?
Brahm, with respect to retention, when we have been looking into the club visits and the ideas which the presidents and VP membership, and also when we had our discussion with the division directors, we see that though initially it was people were having this inhibition of, oh no, I don't want to get into Zoom. Overall, I could see a majority of the people have got to cope up with what is the change that is coming up. And to tell precisely, Jim, a couple of days back, we were talking to a club coach volunteer. She was 60 years old, and she said, like, I would like to learn Zoom, and I would like to learn all the technical details, and I would like to serve for the district. So that is a level of interest we are seeing when we are getting the request from people. And we rolled out the club coach form as well. Everybody started sending out their request, and they are very much open. Initially, it was, when we observed, it was mentioning only the challenges, but now the way they are approaching us, like, hey, I have this challenge, please tell us, train us. We are ready to open, and we are ready to learn and implement that. So that is the level of energy I'm always seeing when I'm interacting with all the officers over there in District 86, and especially with the members when we are interacting. So with this, hence we felt this will add more value when the members are listening to the video in an overall perspective, so that based upon that, we decided to have this program. So this is my view, Brahm. So I'm sure this is going to be really helpful for all the club officers and the district officers listening to this video.
And I'm mentioning that, Jaya, here's one thing, and this is of course my home club, which is my Speak Toastmasters Club. We have members. There's a member in our club who is 81 years old. We have a member who's 18 years old as well, of course. But the 81-year-old gentleman, what an amazing gentleman he is. When we went online, he said, teach me Zoom. I mean, he was a bit slower to uptake, but he did. And he said, please don't be kind to me. Don't say it's okay. No, he said, I want to learn Zoom. I want to be proficient in Zoom because I'm running a business, an online business, because I can't go visit my clients anymore. And my business is online as well. And 81 years old is still running an investment business. So he learned Zoom. there's a lady in her 70s. She took quite a while to learn Zoom, but in the end, what she did was she was able to create a meeting with all her relatives around the globe, 70 of them, because she had learned Zoom. And because these people are learning Zoom, that is another retention. When they learn technology, and anybody can learn technology. We don't know how long the pandemic will last or what the rules will be when we go back to physical or hybrid or whatever that is. So hence, it is very important to learn technology and go with the curve rather than be left behind the curve. Now, before I go to the next point, I will introduce to you your mystery guest. And here he is. There was no surprise for you, Jim. So Patrick is our past international director, all the way from Singapore. It is 7:18 in the morning there. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you.
Now,
I see a lot of familiar faces.
So one of the things, Patrick, is that you said you have 9.5 points, DCP points. So a lot of that DCP points because of perhaps retention and membership renewals and so on that you actually think of way ahead in time. So tell us your secret about membership retention and renewals that you think of ahead of time. You're muted, Patrick.
Thank you. How much time do I have? Because I got a slide to share. I've got a PowerPoint slide. I did one this morning when I couldn't sleep.
You couldn't sleep? Okay. So we will have the PowerPoint on how about for a couple of minutes? Is that okay? I will give you sharing
Okay,
permission.
then yeah, Gayatri has given me that.
Perfect.
1
Go
minute.
ahead. Sure.
One minute, let me open up the file.
So while Patrick is putting up his slide, one of the other things that I find is the tradition and culture of the clubs is very, very important in retention and renewals. And how I mean is that when you have a meeting agenda, it should be set before the meeting. A few days before, people should know their roles, what they are doing in the meeting, and so on and so forth. And when people know ahead of time, and so you're not fumbling around before the meeting starts, like the first 10 minutes of the meeting, for example, if the meeting is starting at 7, for the first 10 minutes, by 7:10, you're still figuring out what the agenda is and so on. Some people don't want to renew in that club. Guests don't want to be converted into members in such a club. That is not a tradition or a culture you should have for a club to thrive. So that affects your retention and renewals at the same time. Is what is the culture of your club? What are the traditions of your club? How are you maintaining your meetings, and how far ahead people know of their agenda? So Jim, a little bit on that, if you can throw your insight in that. Patrick, will come back to you in a second.
Sure, my insight on that. Yeah, I think people want to be part of a professionally run organization. They need to see people who they aspire to be like. And let's face it, some of the newer members need to see people who are more at their level. So it's interesting that demonstration meetings, I like to see a strong speaker and a relatively new speaker.
Yeah.
Someone can watch and say, boy, I think I could do that good, not to be crude, but we do need that mix. So the meetings need to be professionally run. And I think it's really important that, if at all possible, members see a mix of talent and skill on display at the meetings. But we are known for developing leaders, and part of that is running efficient meetings. And we are exceptionally good at that. We need to continue to be exceptionally strong at that, to your point, for renewals, and for people to see value and continue to participate.
As I say, surround yourself with people that will inspire you and uplift you. It falls right in that realm. So Patrick, tell us about what you got there, and we'll give you 2 minutes because this is not so much about slideshows. So, but thank you so much for putting that up for us.
Sure. All right. Good Good evening to all of you and good morning to those in Asia. My mantra is always to concentrate on quality and quantity will follow. So I will move very fast. We congratulate Bram for doing this. I think in a lot of cases, especially in Asia, whereby we are very DCP focused, sometimes leaders forget that it's about quality of our meetings and of our speeches. So that's why I ask this, because I always believe that when we concentrate on quality and when we have good quality meetings, our guests will sign up. So one of the things that we do is that we plan ahead in terms of educational and all, and ensure that good committed people join our executive committees, because these two are the easiest to plan ahead to get the DCPs. So this year we've got 9.5 DCPs already, the other half when we attend the next TLI or COT come December. And last year we were the first in the world to get all 10. Previous term, we were one of the first 6 in the world. This term, we probably will get one of the first few to get 10 too. We may not be the first, but it doesn't matter. It's just a shouting rights, that's all. But the thing is, it all depends a lot on the getting at least the 8 new members for the DCP, right? So I personally follow up with all guests that joins and visits my club, and I still follow up with ex-members. So, and that's why this term I was pleasantly surprised. Many of them agreed to join, especially after they found out that I'm the incoming or the new president. So do continue to make sure you follow up with the guests. Sometimes the timing is not right. They may not join straight away. Sometimes, even though they are members, they need to leave because of work and exigencies of duties at work, or because they are taking up studies, family crisis situations, whatever. And they will come back. Just like last night, we have an ex-member. She promised to rejoin us last month, and she just don't even have the time to fill a 2-minute online registration form. So I said, it's okay, take your time. And she came and attended the meeting for the first time in 3 years. And when I welcome her, she said, oh yeah, I have to fill up the form. I said, don't worry, take your time, because she is busy. But the fact is, she made time to attend the meeting. So what is your club's moments of truth? Who are following up? And of course, having good executive committee members like Julie, who is here, and my Vice President of Education, Patricia. We have become an international club with members from Mongolia, Japan, US, Namibia, Russia, Australia, Philippines. And our program sheets are always out at least 5 days to a week before the meeting. So you may want to do that. Even if it's drafts, you may want to do that, because when you do that, then you are able to show to your members you are well planned. I think
Absolutely.
I will stop here.
Yes.
Yep. And
Thank you. Thank you,
if there's
Patrick.
time, I'll continue.
No, absolutely. Actually, the next question is, we've talked about retention, right? And now renewals, because we are now right bang in the middle of renewals. And you know, the famous quote, the dues are due. In North America, at least that's what he said, the dues are due. In other countries, of course, membership fee is due. I'm from more of an English trained student, so for me, it's membership fee is due. But in North America, I'd heard dues are due. And so why should we collect dues as early as possible and not wait till the last minute? Like September 29th or 27th, things like that. Sometimes even September the 30th, I've seen clubs do that. And of course, some go a little bit over the line, which they shouldn't really be doing, because you really want a point for submitting on time. So why should we collect early though? Like my club has already paid for quite a number of members already, and some members are a bit struggling to pay up because of the busy and so on, so they haven't sent in the money, but they will be done before next week is out. We won't wait till the last minute. So why should
Right.
we do it early? So I'll put that first to Jim Kokocki.
Why should we collect dues early? Because we're here to serve members. Club leaders are here to serve members. And if members are not paid on October 1st, they don't have access to pathways. So if they're inspired to do a speech, if they've got a speech planned coming up, or if they're inspired, something happens in their life and they say, oh, I want to speak at my club about this, I'm going to look at my pathways program, they will not have access. So that's the primary reason, but it's also just a reason of discipline. So much about leadership is about discipline and process and regimentation. And I don't want that to sound harsh, but we need to be efficient and effective at running our organization. So if it's a small club like a Toastmasters club, not to disparage any clubs, but our clubs are small entities, or whether it's a big organization, we need to be disciplined about asking for payment from customers if we're running a business. So part of it is just management discipline, but the bigger picture is we need to take care of our members and they will lose access to pathways. October 1st.
What I liked, Jim, what you said is customers, because we don't sometimes look at our fellow members as our customers when we are on the executive team, but I do look at them as customers. You know, how can I serve you? You know, and the customer is right, but how can I serve you and how can I make it better for you? You may be right about whatever it is that you may be right about, of course, but how can I serve you? How can I make it better? And if I care enough about you and this customer care, then it'll be easier for me to ask you about renewal. One of the things why I'm saying this is VP of memberships or treasurer thing, I'm harassing the member. I already told them once, we made an announcement. I'm afraid to go and speak to them, but it really is all about customer service and how much they see you as you actually care about them, rather than you're in your mind, you're thinking I'm harassing them. So it is care and how you're going to speak, or how you're going to speak. If you're thinking of I'm harassing them, then what will come out of your mouth would be through that filter. So it's also your thoughts and how you're thinking about your members, and as if they are your colleagues and your customers, or oh, you know, I'm afraid to talk to them. So that's one of the things, is how we are thinking before we approach members. So what do you think, Jayapuri? Because I know you're into that sort of a thing. So about thinking and thoughts and how they interfere with us.
Yeah, Brahm. When we are approaching the members, with respect to VP membership, it's like also the VP education is going hand in hand, because the VP education is really helping for the goal setting. So when approaching a member, rather than saying that, hey, I would like to achieve this DCP, why don't you complete this for me? On the other hand, hey, this is the last time you had visited the club and this is the goal you had accomplished. How about adding one more role for this week? How about signing up for a speech slot? So if this is the approach we go and talk to the members, that is going to really make them to think, hey, this club is really taking care of my goals and my personal development, and they are not approaching me just for goal setting and just for numbers. So that is a way, kind of suggestions as well we have been giving to the division directors when we had the discussion. And also to come to the point, Patrick, you suggested the moments of truth. Yes, all these points we had accumulated and we had set up during the goal setting session for the division directors on how the moments of truth needs to be conducted. And for additional values, the past district director, Vitali, had also volunteered to take a couple of training sessions, because it is all how we are laying the basement much before the September. So that process we had thoroughly done for all the clubs in the district 86 through the division directors and area directors.
So yes, that is another strategy. If you are at the district level, is meet with your division directors and together with the area directors. We met with every one of them individually, a division director with the area directors, and we had a great conversation with all of them. There are 8 division directors in my district currently, and we had great conversation about all sorts of things: Smedley's Award, membership renewals, club coaches, and so on and so forth. And then We are going to plot everything as we go along, and we are working together on that. And that helps, of course, in how the communication flows and therefore impacts membership, renewals, and retention. Now, of course, we are coming, this was supposed to be only half an hour to 45 minutes. There was nothing too complex. There were some few perhaps new ideas for some of you. That is great if you can take those away. But what I want to say, and please raise your hand if you want to even say you have an idea that wasn't mentioned. If you will raise your hand, we will call on you so you can mention your ideas as to what you are doing in your clubs. Because I know there's a lot of club growth directors, program quality directors, district directors, and of course, various other officers of the club here. So if you have done something that is different, please raise your hand. But what I would like to say is this: the strategies for retention that you heard that we mentioned before, if you apply those strategies of retention, and if the member is left and they can come back, or if the member has been absent from the club, they're inactive and they start being active, then it is very much easier to renew. So there's a connection between your retention activities and the renewal activity and ongoing numbers in your club. In retention, finally, where members won't leave readily. Based on that, oh, we have a question from Nancy. So hang a second, Nancy. Yes, we'll get to you in a second. Thank you. Jayapriya, what do you think about that as the club retention chair?
Bram, as one of the new ideas which we can also propose to the members, which we are planning to follow in District 86, that is the around the district in 120 days. We need to build in the curiosity for the members to continue in the program. So we thought like we will decide all the incentives from CGD and is completely member focused. It is all like encouraging the members. It's not like pushing the members to go and renew or pushing the members, hey, you please attend and get this goal for us. We thought how we can encourage members. If you are willing to go around the district clubs and attend and give us the screenshots and submit that, hey, I have attended this club and this is what I have learned. We are going to accumulate that all, and based upon the highest number, we have decided to recognize them. So for every leadership opportunity District 86 is giving, we are designing the incentive program in a way that is hooking up the members to sign up for it. It's not like we are not chasing people, they are volunteering. So this is one idea we would like to share as part of D86. Maybe you can try this in your district as well, because all the members, they want to go and learn to other clubs, and provided, hey, we are going to recognize your learning, that is going to boost them up. So Abram, you can add more to this.
Well, thank you, Jaya, for actually, I always forget the incentives that I created with my team, but
yeah,
we have an incentive for club members to go around the district in 180 days. It starts September the 1st and ends December the 31st. And what it is that we are encouraging members to visit other clubs so that they see what's really going on in other clubs that they can learn and bring perhaps back to their own clubs. And if they fill in a Google form every time they visit a club outside their own club and put in a screenshot that I visited so-and-so club, at the end of December, we will accumulate all that. It's like a passport, of course. It's a Google form, is like a passport, and we will award based on a draw the ones that attended the most meetings outside and other clubs. Now, Nancy, we will come back. We'll come to you now for your question, and then we will introduce to you our other past international president who has just arrived, and we will introduce him as well. So, Nancy.
I belong to a club that's just exists for, or the members are just past district governors and directors. And I saw the treasurer send out the request for dues. Instead of saying dues are due, she quoted, or she wrote in her email, it's time to renew your commitment to the club. And I had never seen that phrase used before. I thought it was awesome. And I just thought maybe I would share that. Time to renew your commitment to whatever club it is.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
Wow. Any comments from the panel about that particular renew your commitment? What do you guys think from the panel?
Good idea.
Thumbs up. All right. Thank you. Welcome, Mohammed Murad, past international president.
Thank you.
We did think that perhaps the vaccine you'd taken had taken its toll, so you were not here today with us. I did tell the audience that, but it's so good to see you. It's very early in the morning for you as well. It's like, what, 3:30 in the morning for you, I believe?
Yes, it is. And the vaccine is playing a bit of a hindrance. I still have fever, but I'm fine. I think it's going away, and it's for a good cause. So thank you
so much for being here, despite that and the time of the day. You know, when I invited you, I didn't even know it'd be 3 o'clock your time, and of course with the vaccine and all that. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
And we were discussing, of course, distinguished Toastmaster Mohammed, is retention and why should we collect dues early. We were on the subject of why we should collect dues early. And as you heard Nancy just mentioned, renew your commitment was a great remark. Now, what's your views on collecting dues early? Why should we do that?
Well, I think it's the dues and the financials of any club is an important aspect. First of all, the organization, Toastmasters International, has strict rules on membership rosters and on who is in good standing, as we call it. So it's important for the organization to stay alive and be able to fulfill their responsibilities to the members. And probably that is something that not many members are aware of, how the organization runs and how the organization gives back to districts so that the districts could function well. So one of the things that I think is important, that we make members realize that this is how the financials run. Therefore, it's important for them to be part of the organization's well-being. And early, of course, is much better because it helps not drain the resources of the club. The person who is in charge of the financials has a lot of strain, and at the end they are volunteers in collecting the money and contacting people. And then it's very much, as Nancy said, when you say it's commitment, it's very much a group commitment of the members. And if you pay all at once and early, then you know that you are part of the group and you feel that the group is functioning well. I mean, personally, when I see a message, and it doesn't happen anymore, but it used to happen with some of the treasurers at that time, that they were announcing non-payment of some members. And I know, there are thoughts or people who think that is okay to announce it to all the members that a certain person has not paid. And I don't believe that should be the case, because it takes away the cohesion of the group. So early, make sure that the club is healthy, early make sure that the organization is healthy,
Yes.
and early shows the commitment of the member.
And I would agree with you, Mohammed, is that if we are on the executive team, the members are our customers, and you cannot shame our customers into paying early or whenever. That really doesn't work. It's not customer service to begin with, and the customer would leave. And I would leave any club that would put me on such a spot, right? And I'm a high achiever, but I would still leave if that was the case. So that brings me, Mohammed mentioning finance. Actually, it does bring me to a very important question that I hadn't thought of before, and that is, have clubs reduced their dues because we are online and we have no expenses except for Zoom, perhaps? There's no other expenses. In my club, my speak, as soon as we went on Zoom, and of course, we went on Zoom, let's say mid-March. And of course, that was the time we were going to collect dues starting April the 1st. Immediately, what we did for the members was reduce the fee, because I knew we would go online permanently or for a very long time. And then my club decided we will be permanently online. So we said, instead of $20, we'll make it $11, because we also didn't know how the exchange rate would fluctuate based on President Trump or the Congress, and the conservatives or the liberals, whatever they call them in the states, who would come in. So we didn't know what the exchange rate would be, or we would have even dropped it a little bit further down. And so we kept it at $11, and it's working out great for our club. We have we have no expense. Period. There's no expense whatsoever. So I want to ask the audience, as well as if you can put it in the chat, did your club reduce dues? What are you guys doing? And what, I'll put it out to the panel here. Jim.
I'd like to speak to that, Bram, and I applaud you for having the vision that your club was going to go permanently online, and that enabled you to do that. And any club can make that sort of decision to reduce the dues either temporarily or long term. But I'd be really cautious with doing it temporarily. And here's why. I think an awful lot of our members are looking forward to getting back to face or hybrid or whatever that looks like. The world is going to move to hybrid, right? And so are many of our clubs. So if you send the message that, oh, we can reduce fees because we only get Zoom fees, that also sends a message, I think, that this is probably going to be our mode of operation for a long period of time. So I understand it's an option, and it's an individual choice for the club leadership, but I'd be cautious of what people will interpret from that. Exactly.
I would agree with that. My club had decided that it was going to be permanently online.
Right.
The only reason why we had decided that was as March renewals are coming close, I was the club coach at that time. When I started the club coach February the 1st, there were only 2 active members. Mid-March, we had only 3 members. 1 had joined at the time. So we had to make a decision. What are we going to do? Are we going to give up or struggle or reduce our fee and keep going online and see what we can do in that? So hence, it resulted in that manner. So I would, of course, as Jim has thrown caution to the wind, be careful about reduction of fees and the future. And especially if you're going to run hybrid meetings, some of the equipment could be expensive. Right? You might have to buy some equipment. You just can't take one laptop and put it at the end of the room and expect it to be a hybrid meeting. There's a lot of those things, which, of course, the program quality director of District 86 will be putting out. And we will also put out some other material. We've interviewed quite a lot of people around the globe about hybrid meetings. So we will do that. So that's coming down the road. But today is about retention and renewals. Jayapriya, what's your thoughts on reduction of fees or any changes to the fees?
I absolutely agree with the point you had proposed, and Murad said as well. That is, when you said you are a high achiever, but if you are being put up in a situation where you are being humiliated, you will for sure will leave. It's just an psychology of how we need to handle the members, because that really adds value, and that also becomes contagious, and a lot of members leave us. So in that way, I also would like to propose that one of the practice we follow is in my Speak Toastmasters as well, is every week when a person is signing for the role of Toastmaster of the day, it's not just a Toastmaster of the day. We have a session with them. We put them in a hot seat. We have all the role players, and we have a discussion, and we are creating a video and putting it on. So it is not only, hey, I'm signing up for a role and attending a club meeting, I'm also being recognized for the role which I am doing. So this kind of systematic follow-up for every role player who's signing up really will add value. When you are moving towards the membership renewals, these kind of groundwork, when we keep doing, that really makes the members to feel good. I'm being giving importance, so I will continue in the club. You give them reasons for continuing. you add more value for your members, yes, I will have to renew. So take care of them much before they decide that, no, I would want to leave. Follow them closely, talk to them closely. That's it, Ram.
Thank you, Jaya. Very quickly, Patrick, what do you think about reduction of fees or not, or what's your opinion on that?
We collect our fees on a yearly basis, usually come October. So we didn't reduce for the April dues, but for this October dues, we started collecting 2 weeks ago, and we have reduced it by about 20% because we are going to resume hybrid meetings soon. So like what you mentioned, Bram, there will be costs, and we are glad that the people take up to the reduction, but at the same time, taking in mind that whether they renew or not may not be solely based on the reduction. Reduction definitely helps.
Thank you, Patrick. George, we will come to you in a second. Before we do that, Mohammed, Murad, your view on reduction of fees or not?
Your voice is cutting off. I think it's my. Are you asking for my opinion?
Yes, your opinion on should we reduce fees or not, and why? Very quickly.
Mohammed.
Okay. So let me emphasize on one aspect: the financial health of a club. Now, my club is very healthy financially, and we usually have a minimum of 5 to sometimes 20 guests when we were doing face-to-face. And even now, when we are doing that we were face-to-face, before COVID, we used to charge guests fees of 20 dirhams. That's around $5.
Wow.
That's 5.7. And we have, the club has built a sound financial amount that helped the club sustain and be able to do the things they wanted to do when we were face to face. And when the COVID hit, we gradually went from 75% to 50%. And I received an email, I think it was yesterday, from the executive committee saying that we will waive the fees for 6 months.
Wow.
For the people who are on the roster. So 6 months of no fees decision that we are staying virtual for that months.
Amazing. So
And
financially, you're very healthy.
We're very healthy, and that plays a big role in making sure that the members are cared for and so on.
Yes.
And I would caution, the ex-coms of clubs that there has to be clear messaging with the waiving of the fees or the reduction of the fees.
Right.
That this will not, if things come back to normal. Members tend to, even the ones who are coming in newly, they are used to no fees or 20% of the fees or 50% of the fees. And the people who came in after COVID and it was virtual, less fees, will find it very difficult to go back to full fees after we come face to face. So as Priya said, they need to be oriented. They need to understand that this is not going to be the case once we are going back to normal.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mohammed. Now we will come to, of course, the question from George Marshall. And I suppose everyone knows George Marshall. Of course, I do for many years because I use his website extensively to see where my club stands on a regular basis.
I think
So
we are
George,
losing you, Brahm.
I'll try my best. I know
Yeah,
it's,
Your voice is not audible,
microphone is
Brahm.
cracking. We can hardly hear you.
what's
I do
happening
have a
is my internet speed is varying, so I'll try my best. I will pass it on to George.
Off your video and check.
Can't hear you, Brown. Not good.
It's my internet speed.
Yeah, now we are able to hear you.
Sure. Over to you, George.
Okay, I want to mention something else about renewals that has not come up yet. The district can have a role in renewals. Some club officers immediately understand the value of doing the renewals, of doing these things. Others do better when you guide them a little bit. In fact, when you've given them an incentive to do it. So in District 57, we have two incentives. We have a incentive for the first few member a club incentive for the first few clubs to get 20 members in. And we have found that these financial incentives, which of course have to be done the way District Financial wants them to be done, are very, very effective in helping persuade our club officers to take actions that are to the benefit of their very own club. So we like incentives and we use them a lot.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great idea, George, to use incentives. I'm asking the panel here, any of your clubs, or are you aware of any incentives that you use for early
Can't
payment?
understand, Brown. Brown can't understand.
I'll try my best. My internet is horrible. I'm going to put my mouth next to my speaker, my microphone.
Maybe you can consuming more bandwidth for you.
I will put this to the panel, what George Marshall just said about incentives.
George said just now, the role of district. What does panel feel about it? We would start with Jim. Could you please shed some light on your thoughts about what George said?
I think George has got an excellent idea there. You know, we represent leadership organizations, whether it's the club, the area, the division, the district, and we all need to figure out what's the best way to incent the right behavior. That's leadership. I'm glad George has got an incentive. I will say, I look at that and I just wonder, the clubs who get paid early, would they have done it regardless? And I think George would tell us that it does incent better behavior, but that's what incentives need to do, is to encourage people to exhibit the right behaviors. So I applaud George in District 57 for that initiative. And we all need to think about what's the right incentive to drive the right behavior, whether that's for our members in our clubs or for club officers to get dues paid on time, etc.
Thank you so much, Jim. We would like to know your thoughts on this, Mr. Murad.
Yeah, I mean, George is an expert on so many things in the organization. I thank him for being so active in social media and statistics and giving advice. So thank you very much, George. Incentives are great. I mean, they work wonders, and you know, there are clubs who just wait for the messages that have incentives, and they start working on it right then and there. But I would like to caution of how incentives could be interpreted and how districts, ex-com and officers could become so comfortable with the incentives that they could go in a way that is contradictory to Toastmasters policies and procedures, because Toastmasters is very clear. that districts cannot pay dues, for instance, for club members. They cannot renew club memberships. And being on the board a long time ago, and I'm sure George would and Patrick would probably testify to that, that there were clubs and districts who were taking the incentives in a way that was in violation of Toastmasters processes and procedures and bylaws. So there's a fine line, and if you could delineate that fine line, then incentives will be a great booster. However, there are clubs that do not need the incentives. Probably it would be good for districts in these clubs just to praise and recognize and be able to balance the distribution of recognition and incentives with the clubs as a whole. And I think it's important to include areas and divisions in this exercise rather than districts going directly to the clubs for the incentives.
Thank you, Mohammed. Can you guys now hear me? I think I may have sorted my sound out a bit. Thank you.
Yes, Bram.
Oh, all right. It's always scary on technology. Thank you, Gayatri, for taking over there for a few minutes for me. So Gayatri, can you continue? Because I don't know who spoke and who didn't speak. So Gayatri, anybody from the panel who hasn't spoken?
We would now like to ask Patrick Uy to please share his thoughts on what Marshall said about incentives from district to the clubs.
I agree with what Jim and Mohammed has shared. It is indeed good for districts to come up with these incentives. What I would like to see districts do is, especially during this October dues and before October, get the clubs to really concentrate on Smedley Award. Remember that whether a club qualifies for Smedley Award or not, doesn't matter. So districts may even want to incentivize clubs with 3 new members if they are not able to get 5, because every member paid for in the month of July, August, September is usually 3 member payments for the districts, especially if the clubs collect on a yearly basis. Our clubs usually collect on a yearly basis because it takes away a lot of hassle of having to get members to renew every 6 months, except for some particular individuals, we may agree to them paying 6 months because they are going to relocate. And they tell us, but of course now with Zoom and all, we can use that as an incentive for them to continue or to pay 1 year. So do think out of the box and encourage clubs to think out of the box.
Thank you, Patrick. Jaya, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah. Bram, maybe we can highlight a couple of incentives which we had come up in District 86 is that if a member is giving us a new club lead, we have decided to give them incentive. A member is approaching to become mentor, we have certain prerequisites to validate and give them incentive. And we also have open house challenges for the clubs. If you are going to conduct 2 open house challenges and promote membership building, we are recognizing that. So all the Toastmaster activities and the club activities, we have made a list, and based upon that, we had decided whichever club is performing well, we are going to give them incentive, which is very simple and easy for them to achieve. And also it's just a pat on the back and encouraging them, especially during this virtual and pandemic situation. Over to you, Bram.
Thank you. And I really like that what we are discussing is there's a fine line between the incentive and are we meeting the protocols as laid down by Toastmasters International and or incentivizing the clubs. And there certainly is a fine line, Mohammed. So thank you so much for that. Any other questions from the audience? Because we are now coming to an end to this. And if there's anything from the panel, any last few comments? I didn't expect it to go for an hour. We were thinking it would go on for 45 minutes. Mohammed, thank you so much for joining despite the difficulties. I really appreciate that. Gayatri, is there anything in the chat that we need to look at, or?
No questions.
No questions? Okay, perfect. With that, ladies and gentlemen, then, if there's nothing from the panel as well, and nothing from the audience, in that case, this has been, I don't know about other districts or even in my district, I don't know if we've done this before. So I think this is a pilot of what's possible, doing it through Zoom and then doing it live on Facebook. I hope on the Facebook side it's going well, because I'm not really, we haven't enough manpower to monitor that. So we'll find out. It's really a pilot. It's really using technology in a different manner as well. So we were testing out technology, as well as, of course, the most important thing for club growth directors is renewals, retention. We talked about incentives. Should we reduce our fees? Shouldn't we reduce our fees? Throw caution to the wind if you're really thinking of reducing your fees, hybrid meetings coming up, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of things that we could keep discussing here, but we just wanted to focus on membership renewals and retention. And I think we've pretty much covered the subject. I mean, there's probably quite a few more things there. So if there's anything that you need, you will find me on the district website, where you will find my email address. Please send me an email if you need anything. This video will be posted on District 86 group. And so you can go to the group, and under the video, you can put your questions and I will answer those questions as well. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. I will now ask Myrna for any last words. What did she think? Because this is really like a pilot. And I mean, what did you think, Myrna? Was this good?
I think it was fantastic. This is, as you said, a pilot. We have not done this before simultaneously with Facebook and virtually. So this has been a great medium. I thank everyone for being here. I thank your panel. Your panel were very gracious and very informative. And questions that were asked during this session were very, very apropos for what we're doing. So thank you all for coming here. I thank Brahm and his CGD team. They have done an extraordinary job. And please, may I ask you to unmute yourself and put your hands together and appreciate Brahm, his team, and his panel.
And thank you very much. Thank you for those kind words, Myrna. And if this pilot is successful, we will review it. We will do more like this in the future on different things. The meeting is adjourned, but we are open here for comments and any other further comments. Jim, did you want to say something?
No, I was just saying goodbye, everyone, but I'll linger a bit if we're going to do that.
Yeah, we adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to see you, Mohammed.
Good to see you.
We are still on Facebook Live. We need to stop the Facebook Live.
Thank you very much. We will do that.